do this, Facebook. You can do it. Come on, Facebook. I see that spinning wheel that says you're thinking about it, wondering if you can do it. Okay, Facebook Live is actually gosh darn on. And now I take a look and make sure it looks right. Okay. That is what I want it to look like. All right, and now I can actually finally hit record on the podcast audio. Hey, folks tuned in. Yes, Talk Fury is fucking back. I am in goddamn Michigan. All right. And might as well just hop and pop right into it because time is never on your side. When we first did a gosh darn Talk Fury, 2020 was really just beginning to show itself to be 2020, which is more like every year, but more people know about it. And and at the end of the episode, almost Dr. Sprengeler here said, it did like a closing remarks and then said it's gonna be a hot summer. And we have Dr. Sprengeler here representing FURIE, Feminist Uprising to Resist Inequality and Exploitation. And Chelsey Sprengeler, was it a hot summer?
Yeah, it's a very hot summer. Because I think the fires on the West Coast would confirm it's a hot summer. I think these hurricanes coming in New Orleans, Louisiana, where I'm now relocated to, would say it's a hot summer. I think these continued riots and uprisings would say it's a hot summer. So, yeah, it's been a hot summer.
Yeah, I remember leaning on that when you said it. I was like, I don't know, this kid is fucking smart. I think I'm gonna go with what the young person said, and I was right to bet it on youth. You know, even though you're getting close to the 30s club, it's neat. Back pain for no reason. And what was cracking off? I mean, what folks that follow programs like Democracy Now! And whatnot, like knew there was a coronavirus coming, didn't know it would get this real. But by the time the summer was here, stimulus checks had come and went. What else was that came and went? Now workers are heroes. We don't know where the hell the murder hornets are. And and at this point, I think that somewhere that I was just about to be wrong, I actually had to reverse myself. Because in 2018, I started arguing that, the young white kids out there, and, and there's black folks, a lot of folks out there, but a lot of these young white kids out there may not know just how real not just the system is, but the other white people are. Like, I think a lot of the young white kids underestimated other white people, and I started arguing in 2018 that you need to take on a gangbang mentality because the other guys are presenting themselves as gangs. Proud Boys are a gang, like you need to understand, you need to start turf hogging. Like if you're gonna go into an area, you need to recon that area. Like you plan to do a protest on Thursday, then on Monday you need to be out there like, okay, this gas station right here, we need to lock down that, we need to have that gas station, have some people there, just in case we get hit with pepper spray, they can grab some milk real quick, right? We need to have some people over here at 20th Street here, some people at Acorn Boulevard, and then if you see those fucking, those fucking neo-Nazis coming in, the Proud Boys and all those folks, they generally uniform themselves. You can see them coming, like keep them out of this parameter, like you need to treat it like it's your hood. And then I started thinking, maybe I'm going too far. Maybe I'm tripping. But then Kyle Rittenhouse said, no, you're not tripping. We are here to bang. Like, you saw the Kyle Rittenhouse. What did you think of that when you first saw it?
Yeah, I think that is I think people are waking up to just the reality of violence here in the United States. So, it doesn't surprise me at all. it's maddening, but it's really just the violence is just kind of coming to the forefront now, and people need to wake up, you know? I think you're really right, William, about the approach people take to protest. I think liberals have gotten so conditioned that protests are an experience that they get to go to. I mean, we could talk about all the psychology that goes into it in different types of protests, but, you know, liberals think it's a way to kind of show their signs, take some pictures. White liberals think it's a way to absolve their guilt. It's a performance, really. You know, much of protests are a performance. It's not a tactical or strategic thing anymore. And people are seeing that, no, the political reality right now is violence. And it's not a performance that you go out to and just take some photos at to post on your Facebook. This is to other people, to counter protesters right now. This is it's an insurgency. They have militias, they got guns. They feel that that they are trying to hold on to an America that is very unstable, and it is unstable. It's absolutely unstable. And liberals think that that their version of protest is bringing things back to stability, and that they're going to make America stable again. They're going to make America great again in their own way. Really, that's what they think. And it's not stable. And we are at a breaking point of decades and decades of bad policies, corrupt politicians letting conditions get worse and worse in the United States by this lesser of two evils mentality that we have. The United States public sense of itself it's completely rotted out, and this is the rot that shows. The people need to wake up and be aware of that it's completely rotted out, and we could face a war. We could face a civil war, and it's not a surprise to me. If you've been living under a rock, maybe it is, but it's I think people have to really be aware of what they're going into with protests. These militias, they go out and train. They go out on the weekends. These are men who go out and they go in the woods and they practice shooting and coordinating and doing, their semi-military training that they do. So, I posted on my Facebook pages, I believe yesterday or the day before, a video of what's happening in Louisville, Kentucky, with the various militia groups. It was all about the arms. There's armed protesters, black protesters who are showing up. And one woman, she was a grandmother, she was great quote. She said she's not going to show up to you don't bring knives to a gunfight. And they're done asking peacefully to have their lives, to keep their lives. So they're not gonna act peacefully anymore, and they're not naive about the situation that they're in. So there are Proud Boys. There's all these different militia groups. They're showing up to protect private property at Black Lives Matter protests. There's a lot of unarmed people who are unaware that this is the reality. And then there's this, I'm blanking on the name of their group right now, but there's a black nationalist militia that is really interesting. That's outside of Louisville. That goes straight up marching and doing tactical practice and showing themselves. If I remember the name, I can pull it up and remind people. But yeah, this little video clip is the reporter's pretty ignorant if you find it. It's the white male reporter, but this is the reality of what's going on. And so don't show up to a gunfight. It's a gunfight. Now don't show up to a gunfight tonight. So, yeah. I mean, this is why we've been talking about self-defense at FURIE for several years. Not just this in the streets, but But a big part of why we started our self-defense training is we knew that conditions were deteriorating. The economic conditions and social conditions are deteriorating in the United States, and that means that oppressed people are going to receive an increase in violence.
Yes. Yeah, and continuing on with the banging, and I'm thinking Kyle Rittenhouse again, right? Because I haven't put his name in my postings because I think he's just he's a piece to a bigger puzzle. And like something to be aware of, again, if you're going out there, like, yeah, the older men are out there and they're violent too, but just like something that that Snoop Dogg called out back in 1996 was that you got OGs sending BGs on a mission, right? Like you got men in their 50s, their 60s, and their 40s making websites like all the Daily Stormer and joints like that, and you know, was that Breitbart and all that stuff. Those are older, grown men making those websites. And what do? They get into the head of a motherfucker like Dylan Roof, and then Dylan Roof goes out there as a little BG and puts in that work and gets life in prison while those dirty ass OGs are out there sitting out there. So maybe if you're some little right winger, some little 17, 15-year-old right winger that may just happen to tune into this because you want to see what the SJWs are talking about, I'm talking about how your big homies don't give a fuck about you. But then also look for those Kyle Rittenhouses, because, you know, you see his picture close up. He looks like a little punk-ass 12-year-old. But when you see those little motherfuckers, they are ready to put in work faster than the OGs. And you can quote Ice Cube on this from his Lethal Injection album on the song Little Ass G. Little Lokes are harder than the OGs. Because OGs are jaded and they're selfish. They still want the movement, but they don't want to put in work. So just that's also something to look for. You see a young nigga, that's way more dangerous than the old dude with the mullet and the fucking handlebar mustache posing on the fucking Harley Davidson. That dude ain't hard. That's a wrinkled old man that's posing with his tattoos. That little young dude, that's the one that's gonna blast on you first. That's something I think.
Yeah, I agree. You know, there's a lot of young people who, and that's a great comparison to this kind of gang mentality, is, you know, the young folks have proven themselves to be part of the gang in a lot of ways. You know, they got to come up and they're on the front line. So in the military, it'd be like that too. The generals aren't going to get killed. It's going to be those young guys who sacrifice themselves to conform to the military and to prove themselves as a martyr for their cause in some way. So they'll do that. So, you know, and I think people should be aware that, you know, just like, you know, with Generation Z folks and millennials to some extent, you know, we're still coming up in this world that has very little offered for us, and that makes extremists on both ends. That will create extremists. The less opportunities there are for people, the more people are alienated and feel that there's not a job market for them. You know, they went through a school system that, if they went through a public school system, there's nothing, and they get out and there's nothing for them but poverty and jail. That will create extremes in people. And that's not just going to be for the oppressed. That's going to be for a lot of pissed off white people who think that this country was made for them, and now they have nothing, and they psychologically feel that they are owed so much for who they are. And oppressed people should wake up and have that. They should feel that same deserving. Women should feel that. You know, black and brown folks in this country should feel that. They should feel that they are owed something, but oppression has made us be willing to take more than we should be willing to take. But white folks, no, this country was built for them, right? The founding fathers built all this for them and made this land of bread and honey. Where's all the bread and the honey? They got a gun to get their bread and honey. Like, so people need to be aware of that, and that's the kind of reality for these kids like Rittenhouse. You know, maybe more than their grandfathers. So, a lot more than their grandfathers. Their grandfathers had jobs. So, you know, and this brings up an issue that I think protest movements, anybody who gets into activism or goes to protest will start to be aware of. And for the last decade that I've seen, you know, I'm fairly young. From what I've been able to see in the last decade at least, there's a huge demonization by liberals of more radical groups at protests like Antifa, but more specifically groups like Black Bloc, if you're familiar with that, William. which for those listening, Black Bloc is just a tactical group, kind of like Antifa. There's no organization. There's no leaders. There's no place they meet. There's nothing like that. They don't know each other's names and organize. It's just a tactical agreement that people who are used to protest culture, some of them do. A lot of them are anarchists. But Black Bloc is people who they'll wear all black and often have like bandanas or masks to wear all, at protests to kind of both identify themselves but also make themselves anonymous, because if everybody's wearing black, if there's 100 people at a protest wearing black, you can't identify them to the police on who does what if they break the law. And breaking the law is more, they're not just there to destroy property. They are willing to engage in violence. When I say violence, transgression, breaking the law. But mostly what they do is their agreement, what they kind of understand their job as Black Bloc is at protests, they will help people and combat the police if they have to. So they will do things like arrest people. If the police are trying to scoop up people on the edges of a protest, and sometimes that'll be slower people. You've got people, you imagine a huge protest with thousands of people, and you've got disabled people or people who walk slower for whatever reason. Maybe they straggle at the end of a protest. And if those people get stuck by themselves, if there's a group of just a couple people straggling at the end of a protest in the middle of the street where they're not supposed to be, for instance, and there's a huge gap between them and the rest of the protest, it's really easy for those stragglers to get cut off by the police and arrested, for instance, and they get picked on. So something Black Bloc will do with anybody in those black clothes, they'll stay at the back. They'll stay at the front and they'll stay at the back and hang out. And they will watch and block and kind of, they'll even the link arms or something at the back so the police don't just creep up and wrap around those people. Or they will then run up to the rest of the group and say, hey, slow down. You got a big gap. Your group has broken off into multiple stragglers. You all need to slow down and keep together, because that's how you keep each other more safe, is keeping together. So, they're mostly relating to the police, because mostly it's been, the state negotiates violence and violence against protesters. But now we're seeing that breaking down. We're seeing that breaking completely down with vigilantes. So, Black Bloc, they're willing to, if the police try to scoop someone up, they will be willing to run in and grab that person and try to grab them back from the police so the police don't take them and arrest them. If that person doesn't want to be arrested and they're resisting, right? So, they'll go in and be arrested. And that's a federal, I believe it's a felony. So, because you're obstructing justice, you're obstructing the police from doing their job. You're not just passively doing the wrong thing, like at a protest and getting arrested. You took somebody back and stopped the police from doing their job. So, they'll do stuff like that, and they mask up and they wear all black so that they can do that, and then they'll run back into the crowd, and the police can't target them because they're all wearing the same uniform color. So they'll do stuff like that, because they do stuff like that, you get liberals and peaceful protesters who demonize them and say, oh, you're coming into our peaceful march and making it not peaceful, you're shaking things up with the police, these are anarchists who are willing to break a window or something like that. When things get serious, those, you better stop demonizing those people, because those people actually know how to deal with violence. They know how to look out for other people. They're not there to get their damn photo taken for Facebook, for Black Lives Matter, to post as their profile pic. These are people who are willing to throw down and look out for other people and are willing to break the law to do what they need to do. And that's what's happening now. This isn't performative protest. This is tactical protest now. So those are the people that we need and we need to look to. So we better shut up about, I'm saying we, in the way of general protest culture in the United States, better wake up and make friends with those kinds of people.
Folks, this is Chelsey Sprengeler, Talk FURIE. I see Jessica Loco, longtime wine cellar head, said, yep, you see us live indeed. And I see Jessica left a comment saying absolutely. So agreeing with something you're saying from 15 minutes ago. And Fallon Kitty from FallonKitty.com said, I can't imagine how this also plays. And oh, okay, there's more to it. I can't imagine how this also plays into right-wingers who are by POC, like international students who land in the U.S. in pursuit of that neoliberal dream and respectability politics. And just noticing that heavy in circles with red hat tokens or old money. Yeah, I think that wait, that's BIP. So I think that's bisexual people of color. I don't really know all the acronyms.
I think that's black and that refers to black and indigenous, I believe.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, I get it. All right. Yeah, think about like a motherfucker. Okay, so a lot of the lefties, sometimes this regularly ends up in my news feed or like lefty podcasts I listen to, because I'm unabashedly in echo chambers. I'm fine with that. But I see people regularly sharing these clips from this program called Rising from the publication The Hill, and they're always like, look where Crystal Ball gets it right. Check out Crystal Ball gets it right. And they rarely note Crystal Ball's host, who was a cat named Sagar Enjeti, which is one of these people of color. I don't know if Sagar is an immigrant or a child of immigrants. They accentuate pretty generically American, sound very North American, Northeastern a little bit. And Sagar is anti-black as shit. And Crystal Ball and Sagar, they spent like 8 minutes defending rape culture. And it's like, yeah, they got some ill hot takes, but then I'm trying to figure out, like, why is Sagar like such an asshole? And Crystal Ball's an asshole too, but Sagar is self-described as a right-wing populist. Because I kept thinking, like, why is he trying to be like, oh, the Republicans should do this if they think they want to win? And it's like, oh, because this cat, and it's like, nah, I'm not with either party. But when a motherfucker's right-wing, I understand all the shit that you're okay with. Like, if you're with the Democrats, I might be able to get to you because I know you may have some problems with misogyny, racism, and whatnot. But if you're with the Republicans, that like since Lee Atwater, then I know that there's all sorts of shit that you're fucking fine with and smiling in my face. And I'm pretty sure he comes from class privilege, because I finally watched a video where it was Sagar without Crystal. So it was just nothing but the right-wing talking points. And it was just him and another guy. I think they're from India. Not sure. Don't quote me on that. And the whole segment was about 10 to 15 minutes about how the Negroes in America are just too lazy and not putting in an effort like us people of color immigrants. And I think that's the class thing where Fallon Matthew was putting out, like, how does this play into these right-wingers who are by POC? And it's like, it's class, like Dr. Sprengeler keeps bringing up, like when, like, these folks are really not class oppressed. A white person may call them some racial slur, but they're still gonna go to a roof that's comfortable with heat and nice clothing and plenty to eat and plenty of opportunities, while the black person that Sagar apparently hates just does not have that. Okay, that's what Fallon Matthew made me think of with that comment, Dr. Sprengeler.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an interesting point to bring up, is when things continue to snap and break here in the United States, and it will. This country wasn't sustainable before the coronavirus. Jobs have left the United States. No one's in there, neither Democrats nor Republicans. Trump, to some extent, he rode in on that promise, right, to restore jobs to the United States, which used to be a thing, ironically, that Democrats used to fight for a few decades ago. They used to say that part of the job of unions in the United States was to make trade deals that protected a certain amount of jobs in the United States. So it's ironic that the only one talking about that is Trump, and that's why he's popular. it's part of why it's popular. There's other reasons and racism and things like that. But anyway, not to get on that tangent, but there's nobody that the United States is not okay. It's not stable for so many populations. And then the coronavirus rolls in and causes 30 to 40% unemployment rates, mass instability, evictions are just sitting there waiting to happen as soon as different municipalities and states agree to lift the bans, the moratoriums, like a lot of places are just kind of holding off, but people haven't been able to pay their rent for 6 months. What's going to happen when we get a vaccine, maybe, or whatever happens, and we say, oh, everything's back to normal, where's that money? Where's your rent for the last year? It's going to be, there are going to be waves and waves of more breakdowns and dysfunctions and problems happening that we're going to see into 2021. So, given that, somebody brought up some interesting stuff online. Some of these folks who are doing, homesteading, you could say, or, you've got some more militant, I like the term, the maroon farms. There's some folks who are nationalists who are going out and buying land, especially black folks who are going out and getting land to fist on, and they know this, and they got guns. So I think it's interesting to think. Somebody brought up, look at the population in the places that you're going to. How many counties in the United States, for instance, and where are they in each state, are majority black? Because if you imagine things break down in the United States and you're going out to try to farm on some land, anyone, that could be me, that could be anybody else, the way FURIE is thinking, we're thinking about land, right? And farming and things like that, surviving. Where is that going to be at? Is it going to be at a place in a rural area that's 80% white? And what happens when all those white people got guns and things get serious? Versus a county the counties that are scattered mostly throughout the South that are still majority black. And what's their politics? So are there black Republicans that have guns on the farms? And if things broke down, do you think they would ride with the white people who are starting a race war, or would they ride with the rest of the black folks and the protesters? Even if they don't politically agree, what would happen, That's the kind of conversations people are starting to have. Is where would people's alliance be when it's just shootouts and violence and mob mentality going on across the United States, and the police do nothing about it, and the state just lets it happen, and Biden goes back to hiding?
I think them niggas is rolling with the white people. Also, because I think because again, if you're a black Democrat, I might be able to work with you a little bit, but if you're a black Republican, what in the holy hell you signed up for, which is why niggas should have been looking at Elon James White sideways way before that Thanksgiving shit. Hello, Black Twitter. But yeah, I think that, but also pragmatically, they're gonna side with the white people, even at the risk, right? Because maybe they're not thinking about it as far as I am, but once if they really get full on genocidal and you side with the white people and they're like, all right, come on, boy, come on, roll with us, boy, listen here, this is gonna be pretty good, and you roll with them, and after they kill off as many black people, enslave some, you think they're not gonna lynch you afterwards? They're not, or maybe they'll give you a job looking after the other slaves and you get a better shack in the end. But you also gotta remember, the pragmatic side of a black interracial bootlicker choosing the white side, they know that the police is on that side, the Klan is on that side, the MAGA hat gangbang boys, all them proud fellers, all these militia groups, they really just have more institutional power and more firepower on that side, and just thinking back again, not to go too far way off back to the beginning of the episode, but if you're going out there protesting and getting into that gangbang situation, remember the folks that came to bang against you have the cops on their motherfucking side. These Patriot Prayer gangbangers and all that, they've got the whole police force behind them. Like, they may have to
Yep.
arrest them just to get the look on camera of like, well, we arrested people from both parties, but they're all good. And then you look at and I know a lot of us had a little laugh and a giggle. I did too. When this cat got arrested and the police called him the like the Antifa executive or some shit like that. Like, just arbitrarily gave him some big name. And it's like, that kid's gonna end up in prison, you know, and some of you other cats, you're gonna end up in prison, and you young white kids in prison, you're either gonna have to be racist in there, especially in California, you're gonna have to be racist in there, or you're gonna have to be unprotected in there, right? Because you're gonna have to join a prison gang or attempt to function unsafe without one as a 21-year-old that got arrested for protesting or carrying or getting accused of carrying. Remember, the police will plant shit on you and lie, ask black people. So, like, that's just something else to keep in mind, is that you're gonna end up in that prison system, most likely.
Yeah.
I may have tangented way too far.
No, not at all. And that's kind of, you know, it's a lot to wrap up on. A lot has happened since, you know, the end of summer.
So we can we can flip it. Flip gears. The wine cellar heads are used to that. We still got the same base of regular downloaders. We both moved. Neither of us are in Illinois. So now you are down where and doing what?
Yeah, I am in New Orleans now and starting my PhD program for the next 5 years or so. So, yeah, you know, FURIE is, and I can get some updates on FURIE too. So while I do that, I'm starting a branch of FURIE down here in New Orleans, and because we've still got our original one up in Chicago. We have another branch that's been in the works the past couple of months in Austin, Texas. And so we're laying a lot of groundwork. It's difficult to do a lot of our programs because of the virus right now, so our self-defense training is not currently happening, but we are trying to figure out maybe safe outdoor ways we can do that. But an important update, we are starting a pantry program. Chicago, it's already happening. It's called the Red Rag Pantry, and we will be making announcements on FURIE's Facebook if you follow that. FURIE, by the way, for any listeners, is FURIE. That's our acronym. And so if you look us up, you'll find a little fist, and it's a feminist organization. So we find us on Facebook mostly, or our website, panwomanist.org. Anyway, so the Red Rag is a pantry that's been going since the pandemic started in Chicago. A local social worker started it, and it's near Cortland and Drake, for those of you who are in Chicago. But anyway, it's got, you know, canned food, soup. It's got I'm trying to remember the name of the heroin overdose prevention. Is it not? I can't remember the name of it. But the injections you can take to stop an overdose. We've got some of those. We've got women's and period toiletries if people need it, free and stuff like that that's out there all the time. And so we're taking it over, the operation, since it was too much for the one woman to do by herself. So that's cool. We're going to be spreading that to Austin and New Orleans as soon as we can. And we're expanding it in Chicago. So it is a, mutual aid food program, basically. And the Red Rag came from, we're still looking into this, but the original person who made the pantry named it the Red Rag after a Colombian mutual aid project that I haven't seen a lot online. And part of that, is also, the United States is purposely awful about covering, honestly, the events that's happening in other countries, especially in Latin America and other areas of the so-called third world. So we don't have a lot of reporting, even in English, about what's really happening Columbia in the streets like that, in the poor areas. So, but apparently, so in Columbia, they there's a process where people who need help, and so there's some kind of organization happening, and I'm assuming it's socialist because they call it the red, like the red rag. You put out a red rag outside your door if you need help and supplies. And groups that, because I'm assuming this also has to do with not having as much internet access and phone options. It's a very direct way of people who go down the street to help you or come and knock to help. And I don't know how much this has to do with the virus too. Maybe it's a way to signal to people without coming face to face with them that you need help. But you put a red rag out and somebody will come help you and bring you supplies if they can. So, and red also has a lot of symbolisms with, red, like the Red Army and Soviet Union. Red is a known, the Red Scare was of communists, so that's the communist left color. Anyway, so that's why the original woman called it the Red Rag. So we're going to stick with that name for now, and we're trying to figure out if we can actually find this organization in Columbia that started doing this in the streets. So very interesting, and I'll keep you updated on the developments with that. But we're doing things, and I'm starting to lay the groundwork in New Orleans between hurricanes here.
Shit. And we are over here. I'm not doing nearly as much as that. But I guess I am. I'm a fucking full-time ass worker and very domestic ass person. I'm still with the same factory, right? And the way I see, I'm an uneducated person, but it is interesting, like as far as like whatever formal education. But like it is interesting to me that ironically, I just happened to be at the factory for 4 years, and though I don't have degrees, I have certificates for my promotions and for like Kaizen events that I've done, for things that I've learned as far as mechanics with the maintenance department, and forklift certification, skyjack certification, boom lift. This is all equipment I can operate, right? If the revolution happens in my lifetime, folks, just know that I bring a knowledge of equipment and mechanics to the table if you need someone in your community. And so I have, I guess, those working class degrees that I'm going with. And now this is where it gets real interesting. Where I got hired originally, it was a place that is mostly functioning on immigration labor from Mexico. And lately they've been bringing in more from India and from Africa, and they start out, like one of the cats that worked there said they started in the late 90s at $5 an hour. Even for the late 90s, holy shit, right? And then you got heads there, like one cat there started working there when they were 15, and they can't make them go now because they're in their 30s now. But they obviously couldn't work there when they were 15, but because they came from Mexico, they didn't check, they didn't care, because they just bring them in through an outside agency. And so they have hella, like, very little rights. They get abused like a motherfucker. I've posted shit from this factory. Nasty ass Gatorade station. No air conditioning the entire climate change summer. And I don't have a thermometer in there, but I lived in Florida for 12 years. I know when the temperature is in the mid-90s. It's fucking ridiculous in that building. And now, with the exact same company, I transferred to where I'm going to be working in Michigan. And one of the first things they told me was, when you go in for orientation on Monday, you have the option to join the union immediately. And it's like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, like, I'm not going to be, a coon like Charlemagne and talk about black privilege, but there is a nationalist privilege with me simply being born here. I just get to be part of the union. Oh, and I start out with an instant raise, because obviously they looked at what I would, because that's another thing from this area where they mostly hire the immigrant labor. They obviously start everyone at lower wages. Because if you're American born, well, you're coming to basically a Mexican factory and you're going to take the Mexican wage. Me, I'm ignorant of the industry, so I didn't know that starting there at $9 an hour was like 50% of what I should have started at. Right? Like, I thought, oh yeah, I guess that's what factory workers make. It's like, no, that's how they exploit this particular group of labor. That's what they start at, and it's really grimy. And so yeah, they start out with, because they looked and saw what I was getting. Even after 4 years of raises and promotions, I was still making so little that this new factory said, we have to give you a raise because it's kind of weird to pay you that little. So that's what I'm going through now. For folks that may see the Facebook Live, obviously I don't have the office fully set up with the cool visuals and whatnot in the background. But as far as working the wine cellar, this is the biggest workspace I've had. And bigger workspace means I can use more equipment, which means I can produce a cooler show. And that does matter, right? Like, I'm trapped in capitalism too, and I need to be able to make a cool podcast that people will want to pay to hear, so I can buy some hamburger meat and taco seasoning, so fucking, yeah, that's essentially what I'm doing out here. I'm in the new wine cellar, and also the wine cellar schedule is about to get a little wacky because for the first time in 11 years, I'm going to be working the afternoon to night shift. So like wine cellar is going to be like some midday shit. And I also don't know yet if this factory is also 6 days a week mandatory. The other one was, and I'm pretty sure we know why after what I've already said, but I don't know if this one is. If this one is only 5 days a week, then holy shit, I have a whole other day of wine cellar and I don't just have to rely on the Sunday. So I'll definitely have to let Dr. Sprengeler know if it's 6 days a week and if I'm on Sunday and if we have to like find a new space to fit Talk FURIE into. And I'm going to orientation at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow Eastern time. And after that's over, I'll announce whatever the how I can start making the new wine cellar production schedule. Okay, Dr. Sprengeler, it was a hot summer. What kind of fall and winter are we about to have? Because so far your predictions are 100%.
I wish my predictions wouldn't come true. I'm a little cynical at this point, but I'm cynical because I want to be real with everybody. I want to be real about what's going on, so we can have some honest hope about what we can actually do in the future, and a totally different future. So, gosh, fall and winter. Oof. Well, I think we're in by the way I predict. So I predict there's going to be a huge vaccine fiasco. Now, I am not an anti-vaxxer, but I also know what happened in Tuskegee. I also know that the medical industry is kind of full of shit, and they are also looking to get their coin wherever and however they can, and will take advantage of any crisis like any capitalist does. So anyway, I think there's going to be a multi-layered vaccine fiasco. I think there's going to be a rush in unsafe vaccines, and this is something that I've already talked about on my Facebook, for instance, in around here. So the black HBCUs, from what I hear, and I have not confirmed this, I will put that out there, but the two HBCUs here in New Orleans, Dillard University and Xavier University, have put out a call. They put a letter out requesting their students, urging their students to volunteer for the vaccine trials, even though they're in an early phase that is experimental. And so they specifically asking and begging students to sign up and volunteer as a duty to the Black community, basically, that has been affected so much by the coronavirus. Now, schools like my university, which is a majority white school, which is a huge facility of medical, we're known as top 3 in the country for medical public health. We literally study epidemiology and viruses and tropical medicine and viruses for malaria. That's what the school was started for by a bunch of white people who wanted to protect white people from malaria in the Caribbean. So they haven't asked any of us. They haven't asked us to volunteer for vaccine trials, but they're asking these HBCUs, which, again, unconfirmed, that I'm hearing that it's because of the grants that they received from these foundations, these medical foundations with the, Gates Foundation and whatnot that are running these vaccine trials. And so that's why they're pushing their students to be guinea pigs. Anyway, they'll say that's not the reason, but I see the bullshit coming. I see some waves of bullshit coming. Then you're going to have the anti-vaxxers, whether they have any percentage of grounding in fact or not. You're going to get a wave of them coming in that are going to protest it. Then we're going to get the state coming in to try to, whether it's going to be mandatory or not. We're going to have waves of evictions. So there's going to be I feel like we've been dealing with the coronavirus for 6 months of just kind of sitting ducks, trying to not die, and we haven't felt the aftermath, the aftershocks that are going to be the real killer now of everything that's going to be piling up. So yeah, I predict vaccine wars, multi-layers of bullshit with that. I predict the eviction wave. That's going to be huge, and that's going to be happening fall and winter, I think. That's my two big predictions at this point. And even unrelated to the virus, there's going to be continued unrest, continued violence, increases in violence. It's not going to stop.
And I guess I'll push it forward and I'll close out here. I think moving, because of the industry I work in, everything is like 6 to 8 months, sometimes even almost a year in advance. So I have to look at early next summer and next spring for people that work in industries like mine, like packaging, manufacturing, distribution. We're going to see a decrease in overtime and maybe even regular time hours, because we have had the same clients having us produce and package products at the same rate as if this is a normal year with the pandemic. Like, I think that Halloween is gonna tank, and all the shit that we packaged for Halloween and all these corporations are gonna see money wasted on manufacturing these Halloween products, packaging them, storing them, and shipping them. They're gonna say, holy shit, we lost money, or we didn't get the return on investment that we wanted. And they're not gonna make those same orders next year. And so when we go into that time of spring, when we start packaging Halloween products, which means the manufacturers are making them when it's still winter, you're gonna see folks that work in industries like mine see the money go down, and you might not see evictions because, folks that work in industries like me, we almost have class privilege. Like, on the real to real, I'm supposed to be a bootlicker, right? Because we're so close to class privilege, we can fucking smell it. And so we have a bit more of an advantage where we won't see evictions, but you're gonna see like smaller apartments and smaller houses. We're gonna be moving. Folks that may be like a 3 or 2 car household might shave that down to being a 1 car household. Like, cause we're definitely gonna be losing money in 2021 because we're not gonna get the same orders from large scale clients in these factories again next year. I think that's the deal. All right, Dr. Sprengeler, this is Talk FURIE, feminist uprising to resist inequality and exploitation. And you were talking about the red rag there. I'm not going to do the pitch for the wine cellar. How can folks help the red rag?
Good question. So we need donations in order to stock it. That's our thing right now, is getting a brand new budget just for this project to stock this every week as people come by and they pick things up daily. So we have You can find our PayPal. If you go to panwomanist.org, you can donate to our PayPal. There's a link on there for PayPal, the little symbol. It should be our email, furie.chicago@gmail.com, I believe is the way to access it. But yeah, feel free to you can also email us. You can share our posts and things like that to help support. So, we're not all just about making fundraising calls, but that is the thing that we have to do. But because we go out and we shop and we get it. Sometimes we get donations of food, but to be consistent, we have to go buy from the grocery stores. So to make sure it never runs out. So yeah, so that's our big thing right now. Spreading the word. There is an Instagram for it that we just took over that is _red_rag_pantry, I believe. So we're getting all this worked out right now. But if you follow us on social media, you can find the links and help spread the word. Or if you know anybody who would like to donate specifically just to a pantry, if you you can write a note with the PayPal donation and everything, or Venmo. We're setting that up for FURIE right now. Some people like Venmo. I've got a personal one, but I know people would prefer to send it to an organization. But as the co-chair, when you on the apps like that, you can say for Red Rack Pantry, and we send receipts to people. When we do grocery shopping, anybody who sends us donations for for the Red Rack Pantry specifically, we like to send them receipts and photo updates of online or on social media of what we bought for the Red Rag, so people get a sense that their money is going to something. It doesn't just disappear into an organization, right? So, we like to do that kind of stuff. So if you can support in any way or just help spread the word, or if you're interested in starting something like this where you're at, it's going to take some time, but we would like to be able to work with people and locally wherever they're at to get some stuff going.
God damn it. And that's it. Yeah, no wine cellar pitch. Red rag for this one. All right, folks. We're in here. We're in this town home, as they call it, which means I have neighbors on both sides of me. So, like, I'm a grown-ass adult that can't smoke reefer in my office. Whatever, fine. But I still got unpacking to do. Like, we're moving in, but it's a slow move in, and I gotta go back to the factory. And again, my schedule has changed, so folks may see me randomly in the daytime now, and then at 3 p.m. I go to work to 11 p.m. I don't know yet if I'm gonna do a late night wine cellar or early morning, because I am on Eastern time. So I know if I leave work at 11 p.m. and I get home at midnight, if I go live, people in California are still at 9 p.m. So I'm not 100% sure on it, but the wine cellar schedule is way changing. All right, and this will be this, and that'll be that. And with the end of the episode, I tip my motherfucking hat. Dr. Sprengeler, be safe out there.
You too now. Talk to you next week.
All right, peace. And Facebook Live.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Yes, thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.